guys, I'm Paige Owens. I am the content director of Alternative Press, and today I am joined by grandson.
Paige, how are you
doing? And most importantly, how are you holding up creatively right now? You are a very creative person. You like to, do a lot of releases. You're very connected with your fan base. How are you navigating this?
That's a good question. Honestly, for me, it's been interesting because I got off of tour. I was on tour for about 2 years straight and got off of tour in November. And we had specifically allocated November all the way up to March to be creative, to not be on tour, to not be pumping out songs. And in that time, I wrote the majority of my debut album. I worked on a couple different side projects, everything from acoustic, folk to hip hop. And just as we were about to go back on tour, everything shut down and this happened. So as far as staying creative goes, I've been writing a bit of music and doing some collaboration over the phone like this, but it's a little less intimate. It's a little less. It feels a little more stiff. So to compensate, I've been trying to just focus on some of the more philosophical foundations of what this upcoming album is about, how I can better service this community and be a part of this community, the rock community, and my fan base, the grandkids. And so I think that those things have been keeping me busy. But one of the worst things I think that anybody in our position can do is tell everyone that every day is so productive and great. There are lots of days where I don't get shit done, where I just feel really bummed out, and even making it off the couch is like a productive day. And that's okay too, I think, when you're dealing with something like this that's so uncertain. So I've been staying creative, but also I think the most important thing I've been trying to do is give myself permission to just take each day as it comes and not have to feel this pressure to be much of anything right now. Because you don't have to write your screenplay. You don't have to go run your marathon right now. It's okay if what you're doing is taking care of yourself and just trying to fight depression or anxiety or whatever it is. So I hope that can be of help for somebody.
People who are not used to working from home are now, they're used to being around their whole team, and now they're isolated to be alone for 8-10 hours a day, whatever you're working. If you're working like a 9 to 5 and you're going over those hours and then you're alone. And I mean, even for me personally, I find it sometimes very hard to change out of the clothes that I was wearing over the weekend. Like, I was relaxing and that was like the time, and now I'm like, comes Monday and I'm like, I don't want to change into something that like I would go outside in.
Yeah, it's confusing. It's confusing when you don't have the physical change to manifest alongside the mental, changes that we go through every single day, where, some days we have to snap into work mode and take a bunch of meetings. But if you're doing that in the same living room, it can get very hard. And I think that having large spaces to operate with, having a big backyard or something like that, even having a job that functions where you can have some semblance of normalcy working from home, a lot of that comes from a privilege that many people don't have the luxury of being able to afford. For a lot of people that are cooped up in tiny apartments, or stuck inside in abusive relationships. There's so many people fighting all kinds of different battles right now, and always try and make space for the very real things that you're struggling with, but also try and find space for the very real things that we're not going through. And I know myself personally, I'm definitely one of the lucky ones in all of this. The fact that I get to make music and have conversations like these that inspire me and remind me of everything that I have. It's really important to make time and space for that, because if you don't, then it doesn't happen. That sort of reflection, that sort of like inner peace is a constant battle and struggle. And just like with physical health, it requires showing up and doing the work and sticking to those routines and being disciplined. So it affects everybody differently, but it's also temporary, and it could be a lot worse. And hopefully in the next couple months, we're going to be able to get back to doing what we love with the people we love.
You're very open about your, mental health and how important it is for people to take care of that. But you also really do a great job of promoting positivity and keeping your chin up and always searching for that silver lining. How are you keeping yourself optimistic right now? What would be the best advice for someone who maybe is at home struggling to continue to do this day in and day out?
That's a great question. I think for me, I use this platform, I use writing music and using social media really as an outlet for the parts of myself that I need help expressing. So I remain a very positive, optimistic person, but a lot of my music is a lot darker and a lot heavier than sometimes my attitude or my disposition might be. So for me, the biggest thing is having these deliberate spaces, these deliberate outlets. For me, that involves writing and singing, like having in these different spaces that you can go where you give yourself that permission to feel all those feelings. So I try and maintain a positive and optimistic attitude where and how I can, particularly when it comes to relating to fans and stuff, because, you know, there's just so much garbage that permeates through your phone, whether that's in your headphones or on Instagram or whatever the fuck. Like, there's so many things to bring you down and make you scared that if I can weasel my way into your timeline in one way or another, I always want to make sure that I'm doing so consciously and I'm doing so to promote the right thing. I think that just being aware of why you do the things you do. And again, I think it really just comes back to trying to find, you know, a sense of purpose in service. So for me, that is why I make music. You know, that's why, if it was just about my own attitudes and feelings, I wouldn't be putting it out in the world for everyone else to hear. Mm-hmm. I really do try and use this space to make even just one other person feel better about what they're going through, and give people a sense of empowerment or agency over their own life. That's the biggest thing. Is there have been times in my life where, through substance abuse or through a general apathy or indecisiveness around what I want to do with my life, where I have not felt like I'm the one in control of my life, where I feel that my parents or my, you know, people in my life are making decisions for me. And my life changed so dramatically for the better when I began to take on that responsibility to navigate my own life for myself. So what I try and do is just give other people that permission and remind them that they, whether or not you are taking that space, whether or not you are the one making those decisions, they're yours to make. And we all have to live with the consequences of those decisions. So I think for somebody that's just like bummed out, who doesn't have a sense of purpose, the biggest thing is just try shit, because you just don't know whether it's music or it's painting or it's running. But there is some sort of outlet that will give you a sense of accomplishment. And that for me are the best days in quarantine, where I feel tired emotionally, creatively, physically, whatever it is. And I'm proud of the work I did that day. So finding a hobby, finding a passion within the constraints that these times have created, and trying to be there for other people, you know, check in on a family member or catch up with a friend you haven't talked to in a while, make sure they're doing okay, because I don't know why or how it is, but you just feel better being there for other people. And I feel so blessed to have been able to go on tour the past couple of years and speak to, you know, thousands of people and hear stories about how different our upbringings are, but at the same time, how much we are going through that is the same as one another. And if you're going through something, there's a good chance that somebody else is going through it too. And if you've navigated those things, if you've learned anything along the way, passing that on feels good. Those are the best things that I could possibly, but I'm just one person. That's just my attitude.
Of course. I mean, it's so interesting though, because, you know, our whole world has slowed down so much because of all of this. You almost get an opportunity now to, if you've been holding off or, you know, making excuses for why you're not painting or why you're not reading or why you're not working out. It's like everyone has slowed down. You can make those things now.
Yeah, you have an interesting opportunity, and that's all it is. It's not an obligation, but it is an opportunity to really go through the things that you've done in your life, the things that comprise your sense of identity, your sense of self, and audit them. Like myself, I went through all of the music that I've been working on, and I get to have the afternoon to wonder, well, what about this thing struck me? What about this resonated? It also has given me a chance to reconnect with being a fan and listening to a lot of music. And, you know, the best thing that anyone, if you want to be in music, if you want to be creative, the most important thing you can have is a clear sense of direction through your taste. And you develop that palette through being a fan. You know, find the things that really speak to you, whether it's a band that you're obsessed with or, you know, a song or anything, and really critically ask, what about this do I love? And try and rip it off as best you can. And then through doing that, maybe you'll find your own fingerprint that draws inspiration from these things, but that takes it in a whole different direction. You know, I've been so influenced by certain bands over the years, like Linkin Park, like Rage Against the Machine. And, you know, when I first started making music, I was really listening to them and trying to find my voice through those avenues that they created. And then years later, I get to work with Mike Shinoda and work with Tom Morello and work with these guys that I once looked up to. And I felt almost guilty around them. I felt this imposter syndrome. And to hear them encourage me and say, hey, we like what you're doing. We think that you're taking this sound and pushing it in a way that we think is cool. That really was a validating feeling for me. It was really vindicating. So I don't have any shame in listening to other people's music and drawing inspiration, but making sure that it's through my own eyes, my own lens, my own microphone. So I encourage people, if you don't know where to start, to just start with finding the thing that you're most passionate about and let that guide you. Let that be your compass as you sit down to make something. Just try and make things that make you feel the way that those things that first inspired you made you feel.
It almost like allows us to learn to love something again, you know, whether that's music or your job, or learn to love being a parent again, or, you know, because you get more time with your family. Like, it's such an interesting time. And despite all of like the negativity and the bad in the world, there's still that silver lining that, at least on my end, I'm like trying to like see every day. Like, I get the opportunity to listen to music every day and love things more than I did when I was in my office. And it was like, gotta keep going, you know?
I've thought about that so much. The last show that we got to play was at a festival called Okeechobee Festival in Florida. And it was a great day, but we just had no idea that would be the last show we would play for this long. We were preparing to go on tour to Canada just a couple weeks later. And the idea all of a sudden now, I don't know when I'll be performing again. If only I had known at the time that would be, you know, people say play each show like it's your last show or something. But I think that if there's any silver lining that I can take away, it's really just to find gratitude in unexpected places. You know, that in that show, next time I'm on stage, I will much more consciously recognize what a gift it is to be able to share these things. And you know, I live here in Los Angeles, California. My parents are in Toronto, Canada. Similarly, I didn't know that I would have to spend months, you know, on end without seeing them and connecting over FaceTime. So hopefully it can bring us a sense of interpersonal appreciation for the little things in our life. And also I hope that it's a wake-up call on the federal level and in how we've structured our society. There are a lot of things we could take away from this. If there's any one thing to really recognize, it's that public health is our private health. If the person next to you on the bus is sick, that is your responsibility as much as theirs, because who knows how you are taking that home to your loved ones. So I think we need to much more consciously recognize how we take care of sick people in this country. I think that there's a lot of progressive values that are really coming to light as, hey, if we had a society that recognized and you know, respected normal people of all different classes and races, and we understood our collective buying into to the society, I think we would just be better off, and we would have been way better off to deal with all this bullshit that we're currently dealing with. So without taking it too far down a political tangent here, I do think it's really important that people register to vote. I do think it's really important that we are voting by mail if we aren't in a position to feel comfortable standing in line all day in November. And I think we need to demand from the people making huge decisions in this country that we take into consideration some of the lessons that we learn from how this spread so fast, and how, how in this time we need one another more than ever, and who really are essential workers. You see these people on the front line making $8 an hour to bag your groceries, putting themselves on the line, and it just goes to show just how important these kinds of things are. So there's so many lessons to take from this, and I try to remain, optimistic as best I can that we are going to learn from these things and be better for them. But, that's partially why I use rock music, because sometimes I'm not so sure, and having these kinds of outlets is just so important to navigate all of these feelings that come up, because it's just, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, I guess. There are so many people who just don't give a fuck what an artist has to say about any of this, and they're entitled to that. But you can use music for two things. You can use it to escape, or you can use it to confront what you're going through. And if you look at some of the most impactful artists of our generation, a lot of the music you listen to on pop radio today is an escape for your mind. It's a vacation to the strip club, or to somewhere more simple and opulent or whatever. Mm-hmm. But some of my favorite artists, choose to talk about these things and take them head on. So that's just that's the reality of it. And I'm going to do whatever I can. And I ask myself, what more can I do through trying to have these kinds of conversations, volunteering my time for the candidates whose opinions and policies reflect my attitudes back at me, and writing music that talks about these things and reminding people that it is okay. But I have the privilege of growing up in a progressive family and living in California. I know that there are people in Ohio, Florida, all over this country who might not have the support of family or of their community around them when they look at what's happening with the world and feel that there should be a different direction. And for those people, that's why I'm here. That's why this music is here, and that's why this community is here. And it's interesting, because I feel that, especially in America, a huge component of rock fandom is more conservative. It is more homogenous. It is predominantly white and conservative. Maybe not so on social media, but definitely so through who's listening on the radio. And again, like, people are entitled to the attitudes and beliefs they have, but I think that there's nothing more American than having these opinions and making them heard. And I think that B, you have to stand for what you believe in, because one day we'll be old people on our deathbed, and all you'll have is your convictions. All you'll have is what you stood for when it mattered. So to anybody who is trying to stand up for what they believe in and making sure that they're registered to vote come November, I have a huge deal of respect for.
Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty going on in the music industry, and there's a lot of rumors, and I can't stress enough for people to not get hung up on those rumors of what could or could not be happening. But how do you think the uncertainty of the music industry right now is going to influence current artists and artists to come, and then the music that we don't have as of right now, the next generation of musicians?
The music industry, if you think of it as a pie chart, there's different components that comprise the recording artist and their career, and different parts of that are affected in different ways. So the reality is, for me as a recording artist, I have an at-home studio. My music is still getting listened to on Spotify and on Apple Music and on these different streaming platforms. My music videos are being watched on YouTube. All of that is monetized. All of that enables me to continue to pay my rent and help me keep making music. Now the touring side of things is much more aggressively shaken up. And so, when I go on tour, I am in some ways a solo artist. I am grandson, but at the same time, there is this small village of people, both on the recording and on the touring side, that enable me to do what I do, which is connect with fans. So for me to go on tour, there's up to 11, 10 people, and I'm not even one of the bigger artists. You talk about a 21 Pilots or a Panic at the Disco, and you're talking about 40, 50 people involved, as far as making and selling the merch, setting up and tearing down the stage, the musicians that you have on tour with you, your stage manager, your tour manager, all those kinds of roles are in a total disarray right now. And I feel, it's really hard to watch these people that you've shared so much with and gone hand in hand with, struggling to not only just make money in the short term, but understanding like where and how are we making money. And then you also understand that the way that these relationships are often structured, it's a gig economy. So a lot of these photographers, a lot of the people that are working are self-employed and contracted by an artist. So you are filling out a 1099. You are, as far as like the dry structure of things goes, that affects people's ability to get things like unemployment. That affects people's ability to receive the sorts of benefits they might if they were working in a more conventional work setting. So I think that those things are we just don't even know yet. My booking agency has had a huge shakeup. A lot of employees have been furloughed and are caught in this weird purgatory between being fired and having a job. So I'm not really sure how, to be honest with you. I really don't know exactly where or how those roles will change to ensure that those very, very important roles, that those people feel comfortable going back to work, that those people feel comfortable with the career that they've chosen when that uncertainty has been reflected back so aggressively right now. And I look at the artists that I was already aware of who were already gaming on Twitch, who were already self-reliant, producing their own music, recording their own music. Those artists were uniquely positioned to maintain their normal connection to their fans and grow their connection to their fans, versus others who have struggled to find relevancy or find a sense of comfort. For me, I find live streaming kind of awkward, and I find the comments distracting and this and that, but that's the reality. If I'm not doing that right now, then I'm not performing. So it'll be interesting to see how those things change. I'm also very intrigued by how virtual and augmented reality will continue to grow and find an audience. And if you, for anyone watching this, don't think that augmented reality is affecting your daily life now, it already is. Facebook owns their Oculus program, and Facebook, who are developing this virtual reality, own Instagram. All of these new Instagram filters, all of this which Pokemon are you shit, all of that is an experiment in how we adapt to and take on different forms of augmented reality, somewhere in between going into the Matrix and your normal life. And so I think that there may be an acceleration of programs that were already happening to enable people to have some sort of quote unquote front row experience. So I think that it will be in the form of artists pre-recording live sets that you can then access. But I still think that the sound is off. I still think that until you can really make people feel the immersive experience, that's been my one thing about, that's one thing that you can never really replicate yet. The most important thing for people to remember is that music itself is not going anywhere. It is, as long as there will be these emotions and feelings that we're all navigating, there will be somebody to put them into song that we can all sing along with. And that for me has been very comforting to know that some things aren't always going to change. I hope, but whatever is happening, there will be a normal that we return to, but it won't be the exact same for sure. So your guess is as good as mine.
You know, I appreciate so much that you took the time to talk to us today. Before I let you go, give your audience something to look forward to, you know, whether it's a month from now, 6 months from now, what is something that they know 100% sure that they can look forward to with you?
Well, I've put together this, it's been an interesting time because I put together my favorite project I've ever done. I would say it's about 2/3 of the way finished right now. And it's by far my favorite music I've ever done. When I listen to other music, I think it's going to be one of the best albums in rock music this year. I really do believe that the work that me and my team have put in is going to be able to stand for it and speak for itself. And when and how that comes, we're just going to have to wait and see as all this shit shakes up. But so I'm really excited to finally roll out this debut album and take this audience that we've been able to accumulate, this momentum that we've done just off of 3 EPs, and finally put out a debut project. Looking forward to that. I have been putting out a series called XXWHY, which is a podcast if you enjoy conversations like this about finding your purpose, about your identity, about how I and some of your favorite artists find that identity. We've started a series that is available on my YouTube channel where you can listen to conversations I've had with artists that I've toured with, including XXWHY, Dreamers, Phem. We have a bunch of episodes that we already recorded before all this that are coming out. And on top of that, I'm putting out 1 acoustic song every month in collaboration with those same artists to try and raise awareness. You can text Voter XX to 40649, and you can be signed up for head counts, election alerts, and you can be kept up to date with how to make sure that your voice is heard come November. So those are the big things. There's an album coming at some point, XXWHY, and wash your hands. That's all I have for now. And thank you so much for taking the time, Paige. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Jordan. I appreciate you so much. And if you need anything from us, don't hesitate to call, text.
Oh, I definitely will.
All right, well, we'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe.
To anyone watching this, just take care of yourself. All this is temporary, and don't be so hard on yourself. You're going to be all right.